leads to the discovery of a shadowy organization, a cult group, and you having to get through the story. You do also have side quests for people, talking to people, helping them out. You gain reputation as you help people, depending on how you help people and what choices you make as well. And your reputation will affect certain things in the game. Like, some people won't talk to you or help you unless your reputation with their group, with their faction, or with the city that they live in. Anytime you're a kid, you're a kid, right? Enough in this game where it feels like an approachable. So if you want an easier time or a harder time, you can choose that. I like the fact that you have that customizable character, so no matter what class they are, you can build them how you want to. I like the different class options, and just overall this game, I've had a blast playing it. I play mostly on my tablet on Android, but I also play a little bit on PC, and it's fun. Honestly, it's a fun time. I encourage you.
I don't think this is it, but the other one looked like it had more promise. This was Ballroom. Yeah. So this was educational, but it wasn't quite like what I would needed. Go back and look again. Yeah, this is a good list, but it's not. Yeah, there's like nothing else here that. It's weird because it's like what I'm looking for is pretty much like Valheim, kind of. The problem with Valheim is there's not enough. I mean, there's enough. Well, there's like not enough mob diversity, but not enough mobs. We're going back to. We're going back to. What's it called? Yeah, I'm here and I'm farming. Yeah. So.
Autopilot engaged. Warping to Stargate. Warp drive active.
Ravenbound.
What's up, guys and gals? Welcome back to the Nerd Castle.
Thank you, Splattercat Gaming. I'd like to sub to your channel.
I'm just gonna dash straight into it and not care at all.
Oh, that looks good.
What you trying to do? You go, oh, I think I see a chest up there. I think there may very well be a reason to come up here. I would strongly suggest they get rid of the Raven pedestals and just let you turn into the Raven whenever you want. Because, like, I don't know, let's go look at that. Is that a thing over there? I think that's a thing. Maybe there is stuff in between here. I don't know. Maybe I'm just, like, moving too quickly and not properly assessing my surroundings. But I do need a store. A store would be really, really good because I need to upgrade my weapons and my armor and everything else. What do you have going on? We can purchase an armor draw or a weapon draw. I need neither of that. I need mana. You guys are useless. You're not helping
Autopilot
me.
jumping.
I'm guessing that's a boss over there. It's got a big scary helmet icon. So I think it must be. That skull
Warping
icon
to
down there
Stargate.
might be a new enemy
Warp
variety.
drive active.
Kind of hard to say, but let's go ahead and speed it up and we'll take a look at like what's going on in this valley. There's a new icon over there. Alright, let's see what this quest looks like. The constant battle for this land is getting on. I'm gonna poke you twice in the eye with a stick. I have arrived, and I have slain the people that have usurped your farm. What is my reward? Good. Hopefully, this will teach them not to intrude on our land.
Yeah, Ravenbound looked good. Raven's Watch is
Approaching Stargate.
a Ravenbound. Returnal, oh yeah, Returnal's co-op, huh?
Autopilot jumping.
This looks like a good video. Let's watch this. I think I've seen this video, but we'll go back and...
Warping to Stargate. Warp drive active.
Thank you, Image Game, for the excellent content for my stream. I'd like to sub to your channel.
Hi, you're on the Image Game channel. The medieval setting is quite popular and enticing with its unique atmosphere. Developers are actively using this and have embodied in games not only historically reliable data, but also often add various fantasy elements. In this video, I will talk about 40 games with an open medieval world, and I will start with Gothic 3. Is a role-playing game developed by Piranha Bytes and released in 2006. It is set in a large open-world environment, with players taking on the role of a nameless hero as they explore the world and complete quests. Overall, opinions about Gothic 3 are somewhat
Approaching
mixed.
Stargate.
Many players appreciate the game's expansive open world, engaging storyline, and complex character development system. However, others criticize the game's technical issues, lack of polish, and general bugginess. Despite these issues, many players still consider Gothic 3 to be a classic RPG. Its depth, complexity, and expansive game world make it a standout title in the genre, and its emphasis on player choice and consequence is still influential today.
That one might actually be really good. I remember liking
Black
Gothic
Death.
3.
This is an 8 square kilometer medieval world survival simulator based on 14th century Western Europe. The game is very atmospheric. Middle Ages, a deadly plague, burnt villages and forts captured by all sorts of bandits. There is character leveling, crafting, building your own house or castle. From the start, there are 10 classes to choose from. For example,
Autopilot
you can become
jumping.
a warrior, a peasant, or a minstrel. There is multiplayer for up to 50 players. as well as a rating and punishment system that will not allow you to kill everyone you meet.
Warping to station. Warp drive
The Black
active.
Masses, zombie slasher in the spirit of Dying Light, made in the setting of a medieval apocalypse with an open world, co-op, and the maximum number of enemies per square meter. Often the undead huddle into huge hordes, but there is nothing tricky in the technique of exterminating them. Each hit on the adversary adds us experience points, and with them, skill points. They are mostly passive, affect attack speed, regeneration.
He's got a point about Gothic 3. I did like Gothic 3 when I was a kid. That might be a game to look into. Take a look at that. Add that one to the list. Gothic 3, $10. When it goes on sale, I'll buy it. Gothic 1, Gothic 2, and Gothic 3 for $20, but Gothic 3 was the only good one. And there was like Arcania, which is like Gothic 3. Wait, Gothic 3, but I'm thinking of Risen. Risen 3 was an interesting game, but it wasn't as good as Gothic. Yeah, the whole package for $138 for Piranha Bytes. Yeah, that whole thing. Wait, Gothic Universe. Wait, Gothic Universe Edition? Oh, Gothic 1, Gothic 2, and Gothic 3. Yeah, Gothic 2 Gold and Gothic 3. Gothic 3 was a good game. It's got mostly positive, you know. It's I have Two Worlds 2 like all set up to play. That was a good
Docking
game.
request accepted.
I actually did like Two Worlds 2.
Autopilot disabled.
Two Worlds 2
Waypoint
could be
reached.
the game that I'm seeking, but it's got a good mini game in it that I really liked. Oh yeah, I'm here, huh? Yeah, I am here. So yeah, what do we do with this? I think it's 50 million worth of shit. But if I dump it in here, it's like 24 million or something like that. And so the projects are cool, but like, I think I'd rather actually sell this at, I didn't think about this, but I think I do want to sell this at, Amar. So, well, I don't know. Like, I don't know. What can I get for it right here? Just like selling it. I don't have access to it. Okay. Well, so stack all of that. And we'll do compressed icicle over. I'll take it to Amar where I can get the 50 million for it. And then I'm making serious growth. And this, I like this corp in the respect that they don't charge tax. So, yeah, let's go over to Amar. I wonder if this is an Amar corp. It seems like it might be, kind of. Alright, that's 8 jumps. Which isn't bad.
Autopilot
Just go,
engaged.
yeah, just, well, wait.
Autopilot disabled.
It would be better if I take other stuff with
Docking
me too.
request accepted.
Like compressed stuff with me too. And fill up and just go sell it. I don't want to sell it to their opportunity anymore. It's good because I don't have to move it out of system, but if you don't care about moving it out of system, you can make quite a lot of money. So, compressed Veldspar, yeah. Can we put a bunch of that in there? Yeah, can we put a bunch of this in there? It's like 20 million worth of stuff. What was that? Someone riding by on a horse? Yes, Deuces return. 48. What else? We have compressed. Anything else? We have these moon asteroids, the brimful zeolites, but it's not compressed. So I guess we could cap out with the rest of that. That takes some of that. Yep. Yeah, we'll just go take that all to Amar. It's 78 million worth of stuff, and yep, and we'll just go sell it direct on Amar. And then I know I'm moving forward. I'm making money and all that. Wait, I'm up. I'm like really up. Look, I'm up 420. I'm like actually really up. I don't remember making that much money, but yeah, because I was sitting at like 90 million before. I'm like, I'm up. I'm moving faster. So
Autopilot engaged. Warping to Stargate. Warp drive active.
if I can show up like 1,000 cactus splash, yeah, I'm at like 380 right now. And sell it at a gold 10 each. That's a serious game. Like better than those bananas.
Approaching Stargate.
Yeah, I do want Gothic 3. Add to your wish list, yeah. But I don't know about $10. Sooner or later they'll sell it for cheap. They're like on a summer sale or something. These days I'm a little nervous about the DRM stuff. Because then you need an internet connection to play your goddamn game. I mean, not all of them, but yeah, like a bunch of them.
Autopilot jumping. Warping to Stargate. Warp drive active. Approaching Stargate.
He's got a point about
and
Gothic
stuff
3.
like that. The cherry on top is the ability to climb walls, just like Altair. Of course, there are no leaps of faith here, but climbing over a stone wall, climbing a high tower, or climbing into a closed mansion through the second floor is quite real.
The Black
Life is
Masses,
feudal,
huh?
forest village, simulation of a medieval village that develops and inevitably dies out by the end of the game session. The game does not forgive mistakes and requires careful management. Lack of resources, starvation, random events, and disease, everything is there. It will not work to start and watch how the metropolis
Autopilot
is rebuilt.
jumping.
You need to know each character and follow the maturation of each field personally. We will have to think about how to feed and warm the inhabitants, how to provide them with medicines in case of an epidemic, and protect them from wild animals. There is terramorphing,
Warping to
as well as the
Stargate.
ability to move
Warp
into
drive
any inhabitant
active.
and play for him. You can go cut down a tree or hunt, or you can work hard in the fields. Black Desert, MMORPG in a medieval fantasy setting. The game looks much more realistic than anime counterparts from the same Koreans, and the community here is extremely mature. The world is big and full of adventures. It can be explored both on a ship and on various vehicles. In addition, there is an exciting combat system with a lot of skills, combos, and off-scale dynamics.
Approaching Stargate.
Gloria Victis, MMORPG with a huge open medieval world and a small pinch of fantasy that does not spoil the overall impression of the game. All the characteristic features of a massive multiplayer game are present here. A large world, several warring factions, various NPCs, PvP and PvE battles, and the possibility of cooperation with other users. It should also be noted realistic non-target combat, a large number of medieval crafts, an impressive number of authentic weapons and armor, as well as climate and terrain that recreate the territory of Western, Central, and Eastern Europe.
I liked Gloria Victis. I
Albion
bought it and it
Online,
was okay.
another sandbox MMORPG set in an open medieval fantasy world. It differs from many other online role-playing games by high stakes. The more
Autopilot
treasure-rich
jumping.
locations you wander into, the more the jackpot, but the higher the chance of dying and losing all your equipment. In addition to raiding monsters, there are plenty of other activities in the local open world. You can do farming or crafting, buy
Warping
an
to
island,
Stargate.
breed animals there,
Warp
or
drive
rent it out.
active.
Try yourself as a miner, and so on. Nobody bothers to put together a guild, rebuild your base, and attack other clans. Dragon's Dogma, Dark Arisen, a dark and hostile
My real
fantasy
problem with Dragon's
RPG
Dogma
made
is
by
the inventory
Japanese
system.
in a very un-Japanese way. There's no colorful anime here, only a dry and gloomy story about a hero who must fight a dragon in order to return a stolen heart. To do this, he recruits teammates and sets off to clear villages and dungeons from goblins, witches, and giant monsters. There are 9 classes and a lot of different builds to choose from a classic archer to a warrior who can climb the backs of giants. Conqueror's Blade, a multiplayer game where you can create a character,
I like
customize,
Conqueror's Blade, it
choose
was
a
good.
class, and rush into an
Approaching
open world
Stargate.
journey. The graphics are not at the highest level, but it does not hurt the eyes either. Good detailing of characters, locations, buildings, and weapons. You can also participate in large-scale battles in a team with other players and against other players. But before that, you have to gather your huge army, improve it in yourself, and even then, the role of the commander will go to conquer the lands. The Witcher 3, Wild Hunt. This unique game will allow you to plunge into the open world of medieval fantasy with Slavic flavor, where adventure awaits at every turn. Noisy towns and villages, taverns where they will always pour a mug of mead and offer to play Gwent, Kickamores, goblin and witches to be studied and defeated, hundreds of soulful quests and an epic storyline. Even now, against the backdrop of many modern projects, The Witcher is a real sweetie. Kingdom Come: Deliverance, the most believable RPG about the Middle
Autopilot
Ages,
jumping.
which was made by real fans of this era. As a result, you want to live in the open world of medieval Bohemia, observe the daily life of peasants in small villages, chat with the characters, and complete their tasks. The plot is
Warping
non-linear,
to
and
Stargate.
each quest can be completed in
drive
different ways,
active.
which will affect the world around you. The player will be able to take on the role of a warrior, archer, robber, or diplomat. It is worth mentioning the unique combat, which realistically simulates the knightly battles of the Middle Ages. Book of Travels, a cozy MMO about a journey with its own mythology
MMO.
and a world that is interesting to explore. The idea is interesting, but not for everyone. Basically, you have to explore locations for loot and chat with people. There is no eternal farm, although you need to look for various items and trade them so that you have something to buy yourself the best equipment for. The whole process is pleasant and not intrusive. If you like meditation games about walking and exploration, then you should pay attention. Life is Feudal, Your Own. One of the best survival games with RPG elements about the Middle
Approaching
Ages,
Stargate.
combining all the best features and developments from sandbox games, a large open world, free building and terraforming, an abundance of crafts and crafting recipes. Those who prefer robbery and battles to peaceful labor will be impressed by the local combat based on non-target and the possibility of simultaneous participation in the battle of 64 people. Assassin's Creed. Games in this series provide an opportunity to participate in a
Life is
variety
Feudal,
of
Your
historical
Own.
events. The very first part, the second, as well as Assassin's Creed, Brotherhood and Revelations will allow
Let's
us
go
to
look at
plunge into
that.
the
I kind of want to get that too. Life is Feudal, Your Own. I like that one. I want this one, but I want to wait for a sale. We'll put it on the wish list. Yep, it's mostly positive. All reviews are mixed. It's kind of like
Autopilot
with an
jumping.
exceptionally complex crafting system. It requires a relatively beefy computer to run it with a playable frame rate, but oddly addictive.
Warping to Stargate.
It's
Warp
Minecraft
drive active.
and far fewer hostile mobs.
Approaching Stargate.
Still fun solo. I wonder if this is good. My thing is can I make my own server and can I improve the spawn rate of mobs? You know?
Autopilot jumping.
Oh, so I have a bit of my old
Warping
set.
to Stargate. Warp drive active.
Which should be in this set now. Yeah, that's it. So equip. There we go. And now I've got like the full set. Yeah, which is like better. Until I get better logging gear. Which is technically what I should work for here. I don't have logging luck. Or this is, I don't know, is this harvesting? It's weird because it's like harvesting,
Approaching
but it's
Stargate.
also logging, I think. I don't know what it is. It's like, I think it's actually harvesting. No, this is logging. The young cactus is logging. Yep, I'm at 529. If I can sell all of them for a gold 10 or whatever, yeah, like a gold 10 over the next like 2 weeks and stuff, that'll come in for 1,000 gold. If I do that every day, I'll have enough. I'll have enough to buy what I need.
Autopilot jumping. Warping to Stargate. Warp drive active.
Need to buy like 6 more equip sets. One for main, one for logging, one for ranged, one for healing, one for... I mean, it's like, dude, I need to buy like 5 or 6 more at $15 a pop. It's so annoying.
Approaching Stargate.
Medieval world. All these 4 games are united by a common and, according to many, the best plot of the series, which touches on several historical events and heroes. The gameplay is the same. The basis of the mechanics is parkour, the use of crowds and various shelters for stealthy kills, and unusual melee mechanics.
Autopilot
And
jumping.
the open world presents some degree of non-linearity.
Autopilot
Mount and
disabled.
Blade 2,
Waypoint
Bannerlord,
reached.
continuation of the cold medieval sandbox. As before, here we will be given the opportunity to frolic with a sword in our hands both in single-player mode and in multiplayer. The game, first of all, stands out for the freedom of wagering. In this authentic world, we will be able to participate in jousting tournaments, become a merchant or a lord. The latter can buy and improve the castle, as well as recruit recruits. In addition, there are large-scale multiplayer battles with sieges, sword fights, cavalry and crossbow firefights. Medieval Dynasty. Medieval life simulator where the cliched struggle for survival is mixed with mechanics such as building your own village, interacting with NPCs, collecting and producing goods for residents. There is a crafting system, the possibility of hunting and trading. In moments of relaxation, you can distribute your free skills and admire the beautiful views that can please you at any time of the year. We will do all this from the first person in a realistic open world, which contributes to the maximum immersion in the Middle Ages. The Elder Scrolls 4: Oblivion is a role-playing game developed by Bethesda Game Studios and released in 2006. It is set in a vast, open-world environment, with players taking on the role of a customizable character exploring the world and completing quests. One of the game's biggest strengths is its world building. The game's open-world environment is vast and varied, with diverse landscapes, weather patterns, and flora and fauna. Players can interact with a variety of NPCs and factions, each with their own unique characteristics and motivations. The game's main quest and side quests are also praised for their depth and complexity, with many offering multiple paths and outcomes depending on the player's choices. Another major point of praise for Oblivion is its modding community. The game's modding scene is still active today, with many players creating and sharing their own mods to enhance the game's graphics, mechanics, and content. Ostrov is a city-building game. The game takes place in the historical setting of Ukraine in the 18th century and emphasizes realism and attention to detail. One of the game's biggest strengths is its attention to historical accuracy, with a focus on authentic architecture, farming practices, and social structures. Players must manage every aspect of their town's growth, from resource gathering and production to trade and diplomacy with neighboring towns. Stone's Heart. Here we will act as a mercenary. We will go on a journey through the devastated kingdom and we will fulfill contracts in order to earn money for existence. The gameplay is quite hardcore. The character can die from bleeding wounds, and game situations affect the psyche. The variety is also off the charts, an abundance of upgrade options, over 200 items of equipment, and turn-based tactical battles where you need to think several moves ahead. Patron. Settlement simulator in a medieval setting. where the main task is the distribution of human resources. It is necessary to be very thoughtful in the process of building buildings and distributing people according to industries, otherwise people may freeze or starve and die, and this cannot be allowed. Each person is very important and necessary, especially at the beginning of development. As you grow, you need to maintain a balance so that all the resources you need at the moment are enough. The Guild 3, a unique mix of economic simulation, historical life simulation, strategy, and real-time role-playing game, where we have to create a family dynasty that can last for centuries to come. At the same time, it will be possible to choose your craft. You can become the head of a small enterprise, take part in a political career, become the Rustler, a kind of GTA in a medieval setting, an isometric open-world action game in which we can create chaos and have fun hiding from mounted police, annoying peasants, stealing horses, doing crazy quests, hanging out with bards, and much more. The game is extremely frivolous and absurd. Two Worlds 2, another game with fantasy elements in an open medieval world and RPG elements. Here you can become a magician, alchemist, knight, or spy. Equip your hero with the best equipment, find allies, and go on a long journey. The plot is not intricate. The world is engulfed in darkness, and its servants want to release the ancient evil, which you must prevent, and at the same time free the protagonist's sister from captivity. Orcs will also come to the rescue, which were previously enemies, but with the advent of a stronger enemy, they will help the hero throughout the game. Guidonia. The protagonist is a peasant who is accidentally drawn into a maelstrom of mysterious events. We will be sent to a large, seamless open world where we can become an archer, necromancer, warrior, or some other unique fighter. And in the local medieval world there are plenty of things to do. You can explore dungeons, fight for different factions, look for allies, complete quests, and even build your own house. Also, the game will surely please the owners of weak PCs with its low system requirements. Risen 3, Titan Lords, role-playing game from the creators of the Gothic series. Guidonia. The protagonist is a peasant who is accidentally drawn into a maelstrom of mysterious events. We will be sent to a large, seamless open world where we can become an archer, necromancer, warrior, or some other unique fighter. And in the local medieval world there are plenty of things to do. You can explore dungeons, fight for different factions, look for allies, complete quests, and even build your own house. Also, the game will surely please the owners of weak PCs with its low system requirements. Risen 3, Titan Lords, role-playing game from the creators of the Gothic series. The plot begins with the fact that the nameless hero dies and loses his soul, but soon the shaman resurrects him. Now we have to return the soul of the nameless, join one of the 3 factions, and save the islands from evil. Titan Lords starts sluggishly, but soon accelerates, dipping into a sea of adventure. You will be pleased with high-quality combat with magic, fencing, and musket shooting. Here you can turn into a parrot and curse enemies with voodoo magic, surf the oceans, look for treasures, and see monsters. Stronghold Crusader 2, medieval castle management simulator with dynamic gameplay and sophisticated destructibility. Here, players create armies and besiege fortresses, build castles, and fight off enemy raids. All this takes place in the Middle East of 1189 AD, with units and buildings corresponding to the era. The cooperative mode will also please, in which players can jointly manage the castle, troops, and resources. Thronebreaker, The Witcher Tales, isometric role-playing game from the authors of The Third Witcher, which will offer a new story from this amazing universe. This time we will take on the role of the ruler of Lyria and Arivia, who enters the warpath for revenge. The combat mechanics are based on the rules of Gwent, and travel through the virtual world is carried out in the same way as in any other RPG. Fans of The Witcher should go through the game at least for the sake of the plot and the well-developed world, and everyone else will surely enjoy the atmosphere, unusual combat, and excellent music. Giants Uprising, medieval hack and slash with giants in the title role, who destroy all life in their path. Even at the first glance at the game, it is clear that the developers were inspired by the popular anime Attack on Titan, where large monsters devoured people and attacked their cities. However, the idea of this game is radically different. Here the giants were enslaved with the help of magic and forced to work for humanity. Not all giants agreed with this state of affairs, and now we, managing one of them, must put people in their place. Banished. Another settlement simulator where its inhabitants are the main resource. They are born, they grow, they do work, they have offspring, and sooner or later they die. And maintaining happiness, health, and provisions is a necessary condition for the growth of the city.
Warp
There is
drive
no universal
active.
strategy for an easy start. The amount of resources on the maps is different and limited every time. Just building new houses is not enough. There must be enough people in the town to live in them. It is also worth noting that there are about 24 different medieval crafts in the game, from farmers and hunters to blacksmiths, teachers, and healers. Battle Brothers, a tactical role-playing game in which we will play the role of a mercenary leader. We have to gather a bunch of thugs under our wing, go on a journey through an open medieval fantasy world, and conclude contracts for the sake of raining gold coins. We will have to decide for ourselves what the next step will be taken by the mercenaries, what equipment they will have, and how their adventures will end.
Docking
The
permission
game
requested.
does not lead by the
Docking
hand and
request
offers to build
accepted.
your own career in a procedurally generated campaign, and it is also cruel, because teammates will often die permanently in difficult battles. Ghost of a Tale, a fabulous adventure game about a medieval mouse kingdom in which intelligent tailed rodents rule the rest of the creatures. Among them there are both villains and good guys. The story is dedicated to a brave minstrel mouse who went on an adventure in search of his beloved. The gameplay combines elements of adventure, RPG, and open-world action. This is a great fairy tale with nice graphics, painstakingly designed locations, excellent humor, and a dramatic plot. The combat system is intuitive and fun, and the stealth mechanics are well implemented. Savage Lands. We can say that this is a kind of hybrid of Skyrim, Rasta, and even Forest. Those who love survival games in a gloomy medieval atmosphere should definitely pay attention. Our opponents here will be giant ents, skeletons, dragons, and other fantasy creatures. Like any survival simulator, the game offers a wide range of crafting and building options. You will have to start with a wretched hut, raw meat, and an axe, and finish with the construction of your own castle and an entire village, as well as a bunch of rare loot. Kingdoms. This first-person RPG will offer you to write your story in a medieval world, which is randomly generated here every time you start. There is complete freedom of action. Go where your eyes look and become whoever you want. Engage in trade, open your own taverns, create an entire kingdom, or fight bandits in caves. No one limits your actions. The game boasts advanced artificial intelligence. Each NPC here is unique, pursues its own goals, and has its own skills. At the same time, they react differently to the actions of the player, which makes each passage unpredictable. War Tales. It is set in a medieval fantasy world.
Did you do this
emphasizes-
one already? I thought you already did this one. That's funny.
is tactical combat, resource management, and exploration. One of the game's biggest strengths is its blend of role-playing and strategy elements. Players must manage a team of characters, each with their own unique skills and abilities, as they explore the game's open world, complete quests, and engage in tactical combat. The game's combat system is turn-based and emphasizes positioning, terrain, and environmental hazards, making each battle a strategic puzzle to solve. Mortal Online 2 is a massively multiplayer online role-playing game. It is a sequel to the original Mortal Online game and features an open-world sandbox gameplay experience. The gameplay is a mix of action, exploration, and crafting. The game's open-world sandbox style allows players to explore and discover at their own pace, while the game's skill-based character system allows for a unique and personalized experience. The game's crafting system is also deep and rewarding, allowing to create their own equipment and items. The game's player-driven economy also promotes social interaction, as players trade and barter for goods and services. Going Medieval is a survival strategy game set in a post-apocalyptic world. Players must lead a small group of settlers as they build a community, gather resources, and defend themselves against raiders and other dangers. One of the game's biggest strengths is its deep crafting and building systems. Players can create a wide variety of items and structures, from weapons and armor to walls and traps. The game's building system is also highly flexible, allowing players to create custom structures and layouts for their community. Valheim. The gameplay of Valheim is a mix of survival, exploration, and crafting. Valheim is designed to be played with friends, and the game's multiplayer mode is one of its strongest features. Players can form clans and work together to build and explore, or engage in friendly competition in the game's boss battles. The game's seamless integration of single-player and multiplayer modes also makes it easy to play with friends. Valheim's boss battles are a major highlight of the game. Each boss is unique and requires a different strategy to defeat, making each encounter a thrilling challenge. The game's bosses also drop valuable resources that are essential for crafting high-level equipment. Dragon Age Origins is an epic RPG game. Players have praised the game's rich world building, detailed lore, and memorable characters. The main story is engaging and epic, but it's the personal stories of the characters that really shine. Each companion has their own backstory and personality, and players have to work to earn their trust and unlock their full potential. The game offers a lot of replay value, with multiple origin stories to choose from and branching paths based on player choices. Players can experience different storylines, romances, and outcomes depending on their choices, making each playthrough feel fresh and exciting. Expeditions Vikings. In this role-playing strategy game, you will follow the adventures of a Viking clan at the end of the 8th century, in a history full of travels, expeditions, struggles, booty, and many quests on the Scandinavian coasts and beyond. This game is the closest thing to feeling like a real Viking. The different aspects of the game fit together perfectly, creating a continuous and unique playstyle and design. An important reason for this is the RPG element. You create a character, assemble a band of mercenaries, and then sail to England. For what purpose? It depends on you. You can complete the game as a merchant, diplomat, or invader. Some characters will love you for your decisions. Some will hate you. You can't please everyone. Assassin's Creed Valhalla is an action-adventure game and is set during the Viking Age. The game's open-world design allows for a variety of activities, from raiding enemy villages to hunting animals for resources. The game's combat system is also well implemented, with a variety of weapons and abilities to master. The story is engaging. Players take on the role of EvE, a Viking warrior who becomes embroiled in a conflict between the Norse and English kingdoms. That's all. Thank you for watching up to this point. Your like and subscription will be the best gratitude. The Image Game channel was with you. Have a good day.
They say 78 million. Let's see what I can get on immediate. $62. I'll take 62. And you can see that's the best way to get personal growth. I'm back up to 500 million, and man, I'm pulling it in each day, I gotta say.
Autopilot engaged. Warping to Stargate. Warp drive active.
Thank you,
Hello there,
Click for
RPG
Gameplay.
lovers,
I'd like to
and
sub to your
welcome
channel.
my video. Two Worlds 2 is an open-world action RPG released in 2010 by Reality Pump.
Ready to do a little work?
Even though the first game in this franchise became a huge meme, it managed to sell more than 2 million copies. For such a small studio like Reality Pump, this was a massive success, and the sequel was bound to happen. But after what happened...
Yeah, I want to buy Two Worlds 1 and Two Worlds 2 on Steam, so...
Approaching Stargate.
What do you mean includes what? Oh, includes this was mixed, huh? So what about just Two Worlds then? Because I like both of these games. Yeah, the Epic Edition, right? I want to add
Autopilot
this.
jumping.
And I want the Two Worlds Epic, Two Worlds 2. Oh, you can get the whole package for $40, but I don't want to spend that much on this. I should look for these
Warping
games on
to
Humble and
Stargate.
see if they're cheaper.
Warp drive active.
For $17, Two Worlds Epic Edition. Yeah, the bundle info for Two Worlds Epic for $10. Two Worlds 2. Two Worlds 2 Castle Defense. Two Worlds 2 Castle Defense. And but you can't get
Approaching
the
Stargate.
DLC for them. But for $17. $17.40 for the Easter egg bundle. It's a good deal because there's a lot of really good fucking games here. Mixed, mostly positive. Two Worlds Epic Edition, mostly positive. Yeah. I want this game only though. It's funny because that Easter egg bundle is a good deal. It's got both of them, and it would come with a whole bunch of other games with it. But $12 for Two Worlds Two Worlds Epic Edition, Two Worlds Digital Deluxe content for $12. Yeah. I remember this game being really good. Let's look at the two. I came to Two Worlds 2 review, but I've watched this one. Let's just look at another review.
Autopilot jumping.
Maybe Two Worlds is the game I'm actually looking for. Was it really that bad? Yeah, I don't think it was. I don't think so. Two Worlds in 2021.
Warping to Stargate. Warp drive active.
Oh yeah, Ilona. Yeah, I remember Ilona. Two Worlds 2, yeah, but I'm looking for Two Worlds. I guess we want to go back to what we were looking at here.
Two Worlds is a black sheep of action RPGs.
Thank you, Click for
It came out
Gameplay.
in 2007, just a year after Oblivion and Gothic 3, and it was hyped like hell. According to IGN back then, it was supposed to be the Oblivion killer or
Approaching
Oblivion on
Stargate.
steroids. so naturally people expected similar if not better production value. As you probably know, this wasn't true for several reasons, but I'm gonna try and explain to you why I had so much fun playing this game. You don't have to be a genius to point out the bad things about the game. Right at the start, those flaws are easy to see. Actually, those problems drove me away from the game the first time I played it. I just couldn't take seriously the characters with such bad voice acting.
How much do you want?
But that's the thing, you're not supposed to take it seriously. There's so much one-liners and jokes in general that make the dialogue deliberately hilarious. Once you accept that and you actually start playing the game for a while, something about it just grips you. Two Worlds does a few things exceptionally good. The combat in general is not that complex, but the systems that complement the
Autopilot
combat, like
jumping.
leveling, gear system that allows you stacking duplicates on top of each other, unique magic system, simple but really effective alchemy, all of that makes the game really fun to play. So in other words, character progression is great because it allows you to build your character
Warp drive
however you want,
active.
just by having the required stats for it. When you level up, you get 5 stat points and 1 skill point. You can invest your stat points in vitality, strength, dexterity and willpower. You need certain amount of stat points for some stronger skills. There is no level cap and you can respec your character by talking to a certain NPC. The world map is absolutely huge with a lot of interesting locations to explore and bunch of different enemy types that don't scale to your level, which means if you take on some stronger enemy early on, you'll get wrecked, especially by the ranged enemies that will snipe you with bows or magic. So you better zigzag. If you're patient enough, you'll be able to kill tougher opponents by using the step
Approaching
back button,
Stargate.
which is actually really easy to learn, but if you miss it just once, it can be fatal. The enemies are kind enough to let you finish your conversations and then attack you, which is a nice touch and really immersive.
What skills do you have in mind? How to ride a horse, archery, and trap setting.
Yeah. You will find quests around every corner and you'll probably forget about the main quest like I did because your quest log will fill up in no time. And like you would expect in an RPG game, you have different choices with different outcomes. I recently started a new playthrough, I'm about 4 hours in and I'm having loads of fun. You can easily spend hundreds of hours playing the game, there are always new locations to find, new quests to do and more loot of course. When there's a sale you can get it for only $1.99 and that's a steal. Even if you end up not
jumping.
liking the game, you won't regret it that much, but I recommend you to stick with it just a few hours and then make your judgment. So to answer my own question, was Two Worlds really that bad? In my opinion, absolutely not,
Moving
but
to
my answer
Stargate.
would probably be
Warp
different
drive
if I didn't
active.
decide to give the game another chance. People either
So then, okay, I'm gonna go back to the original. Go.
in a way. It had horrible but very funny voice acting and sound effects.
They asked for you. People. Tell me more. Swiftly now.
Extremely rough animations and janky gameplay, but underneath all of that there was some fun to be had. The sequel had a lot of
Approaching
similar
Stargate.
ideas, but this time around the production value of the game was obviously a lot higher. Two Worlds 2 had a budget of a proper AA RPG, and you can immediately tell the difference in quality when it comes to some major features like the voice acting and the presentation. However, even though the bigger budget is more than welcome, it doesn't necessarily mean the sequel is going to be more fun to play because of this. The reception of the sequel was interesting to say the least. The review scores from the critics were much better than the first game, but the average user score is noticeably lower. It's a similar story when it comes to Steam reviews as well. The first game has much better reviews on Steam, so take that as you will. In my personal opinion, I think the sequel is a lot better game in general, but it still suffered from more than a couple of problems that we're going to address in this video.
I have no idea what you just said to me.
Before we even begin to analyze every major aspect of the game, I have to say that my biggest
had
problem
inventory
with Two Worlds 2 is not
problems.
exactly the game itself. Reality Pump.
It was the like it
Autopilot
had inventory
jumping.
problems just like Dragon's Dogma. Dragon's Dogma is kind of the game I want to play, but the sequel's coming this year, so it's like I don't know, like, and also I don't know, it's annoying.
Warping to Stargate. Warp drive active.
Hope Dragon's Dogma has a Gwent type game. I think that'd be sweet. Or like, you know, Triple Triad.
Studio behind this game is a former shadow of itself ever since they were acquired by their publisher, Topware Interactive. A couple of key people left the studio and joined CD Projekt Red, and that's when it all went downhill for Reality Pump. Topware Interactive is just a terrible, consumer-unfriendly company that has the tendency to lie to its customers. Long after the game released, they implemented Marketplace, which is an in-game store where you can buy pointless microtransactions. The game had some serious problems with the DRM, and even today you'll have some of these issues if you buy Two Worlds 2 on Steam. But that's not even the worst part about this lovely company. They kept making new expansions for the game, which doesn't sound bad at all until you actually try them out. Let's just put it this way, the base game had its fair share of problems that we're going to discuss, but there is a huge disparity of quality between the base game and all the DLCs. This video is focused around the base game experience, but we're going to talk about the DLCs as well. Anyway, let's leave the DLC discussion for later and start talking about the base game.
Shut the fuck up. I'm in charge here and I'm the talking person, understood?
The setting and the story of Two Worlds 2 takes place only 5 years after the happenings of
Autopilot
the first
jumping.
game. The nameless protagonist and his sister Kira have been captured in Gandalfar's castle.
Autopilot
Gandalfar is the Emperor of Phantalor
Waypoint
and he's
reached.
the main antagonist of the game. Your sister Kira is a vessel of a very powerful demon called Aziral, and Gandalfar has been using her as a power source. But in order to keep her alive, he also needs the hero to transfer the magic between the two. In the meantime, a group of orcs have a mission to rescue the hero from a castle because they have a plan to stop Gandalfar once and for all. A female orc called Darfa kills the guards and shows you the way out of the castle. This is where it all begins, and just like in the first game, you take the role of a nameless hero that you get to fully customize within a decent character customization system. The game has a very lengthy tutorial section, it's about 40 to 50 minutes long, depending on how you play of course. Now, I usually have a problem with long tutorial sections in open world games, but Two Worlds 2 does a really good job with this. For the most part, it doesn't feel forced because it's almost seamlessly integrated in the main story. But still, it takes quite a while for the game to completely open up. After you successfully escape the castle, you end up on a small island, which is basically like an extended tutorial section. This place is like your hub area, I guess, even though there are no specific reasons to hang around here. Right off the bat, you get to meet some important characters that you're going to visit every now and then when you progress through the main story. If you played the first game, you'll probably think it's a bit weird how you got rescued by a bunch of orcs, because humans and orcs pretty much hate each other. The intro cutscene is about a huge battle between Gandalfar's army and the orcs, where orcs suffered some heavy casualties. This battle almost wiped them out completely actually. The intro cutscene was pretty cool by the way. However, the orcs are not working alone, and shortly after the prison section, you get to meet the leader of this group. The Prophet Kassara is a really important character in the main story, and she tells you a lot more about Gandalfar's newly acquired power. She also shows you a terrible vision of what could potentially happen if Gandalfar is not stopped. I think Kassara has a very cool and unique visual design, although the volume of her voice is much louder compared to other NPCs. This is a common problem in this game and it can be really annoying, especially if you're playing with headphones, but let's leave this for the sound and music discussion. I think the main story was pretty interesting and it's not hard to follow. It comes off really generic in the beginning, but it actually has some interesting plot twists and solid writing through the campaign. The majority of major characters you're going to meet are well written and memorable. A huge part
Golden
of the main quest
Scarab!
is about Gandalf
Yes!
himself. You need to learn as much as possible about his past and how exactly he became the Emperor, which is supposed
That's
to
some
help
money,
you
really
understand how
fast
to
instant
stop him
money.
and save Kira from his deadly grasp. But in order to do that, you have to meet various people from
I'm so
Phantalor,
glad I got that
and,
box.
as you might expect, they won't offer to help you out of the kindness of their hearts. So you quickly get involved in local political affairs in pretty much every major place you get to visit. Come to think of it, this is something that I extensively criticized in my previous review video, which was about Arcania. Arcania basically had the same design philosophy when it comes to the main story. You get very little context for what you need to do, and then you run around the map doing various, and for the most part unrelated quests for local people, until you finally get some more info about the main plot of the game. Rinse and repeat. The main quest in Two Worlds 2 is very similar to this, but later chapters in the game are much more focused on the plot itself. The thing is, there is nothing fundamentally wrong with designing the story like this, unless the writing is really bad, like in Arcania.
You want to marry me?
Don't you?
Sure, it just comes so quickly. Comes so quickly.
She's pregnant. She won't say no. What?
Comes so quickly.
In fact, the majority of critically acclaimed RPGs have the same story structure.
The Emperor is not known for his patience. He wants his daughter back safe and sound, as soon as possible.
Yeah, mentioned something of the sort. Where the hell did you go?
Most of the quests you get to do in Two Worlds 2 are pretty interesting because people you meet have believable issues and agendas. Although the world itself is not very convincing or immersive, at least when it comes to populated places full of NPCs. The open areas are pretty decent and fun to explore actually. Same goes for indoor areas and dungeons, which to my surprise are quite varied and fun to explore. There is not a lot of copy and pasting when it comes to these dungeons, which is something that a lot of RPGs do, but on the other side, you won't find a ton of dungeons on the map. Towns and cities you get to visit just fail to create a decent illusion of living and breathing worlds, even though some NPCs will do a bit more than just walk around. Speaking about that, the game has a very annoying crime system. If you just bump into people, which will happen quite often, this bar will start filling up and you'll get attacked by the guards. But if you try and open a chest in someone's house, they will just give you a death stare without saying or doing anything. It's like they're silently judging you or something, it's really weird. Everything around these populated places feels really fake, for the lack of a better word. Walking through this place feels like you're playing Assassin's Creed 1, which ironically had a similar problem, but it's a totally different game. Anyway, the game offers you some flexibility when it comes to solving quests, in terms of a couple of decisions you get to make. They usually have at least a couple of different options you can pick in dialogue, which will cause different outcomes. Even though the writing is pretty solid, and I had a lot of fun with most of the quests you get to do, I honestly didn't care that much about the choices you get. I think the game has to have at least a couple of more features to properly support the system of choices and consequences. There is no morality, reputation, or karma system of any kind, which would incentivize the player to pay more attention to these choices.
I'm very, very sorry, sir. Does that make you feel better?
The hero doesn't have any character development throughout the main story. The main story is linear as it gets, but the quests which are indirectly related to the main story are not. That's where those choices you get to make come into play. You'll usually get to decide the fate of some important and common people you get to meet in the world. It's a missed opportunity to try and shape the personality of this nameless hero and maybe even affect the outcome of the main story. That's possibly too much to ask for, but I think the game was already halfway there with these features. There are a decent amount of important choices you get to make while solving these quests, and it feels like a missed opportunity to create a comprehensive RPG system around this. So even though I always appreciate this feature, it feels underdeveloped. Speaking of underdeveloped features, Two Worlds 2 has a couple of different guilds, and you can do some quests for them. When you first learn of this, you could get really excited to join these guilds, which is logical. But in reality, none of them feel like proper factions, and they only have a handful of quests for you to solve. It never feels like you're actually joining a guild, even though you can tell that Reality Pump really wanted to create something like that. You can get some minor benefits, like the price reduction for merchants when you get a higher reputation with the Merchants Guild. The arena was really fun though, and it has some strong Oblivion vibes.
What am I up against?
A dwarf.
A dwarf?
You deaf? Been a long time since we've had one in the arena.
Not a problem.
He might appear slow with that huge axe in his hands, but make no mistake, he knows how to use it.
It's funny because the first game was promoted as Oblivion Killer. Yeah, anyway, the main quest will lead you through a couple of different open world zones. Each chapter has a different zone and a brand new major quest you have to solve. Like I said before, the purpose of this quest is to learn more about Gandalf's past. Once you get enough info, you go back to the Prophet and report your findings so you can get further instructions. Chapter 1 and 2 will give you just a fraction of the main story, but these two chapters feel the longest, especially if you decide to explore everything and do every quest which the game offers. I think the game does a great job with this because each new zone is quite different, which keeps the exploration fresh. We'll talk more about the exploration and the zones in the gameplay section. When you get to chapter 3, the main story really kicks off because you start learning a lot more about Gandalf's past. You'll meet some really interesting characters in this chapter which are related to Gandalf's past, but they also have a very interesting story of their own that you'll get to experience in this chapter. When you get up to this point, you should notice that nothing is as it seems in this game. Almost every quest has some twists and turns, and it's what keeps the story of the game interesting if you ask me. Even the side quests are pretty decent. For example, in Chapter 2 you can do a quest for this lady that sells umbrellas. The only problem is, the umbrellas have been eating her customers. Yeah, some quests are definitely goofy, but interesting nonetheless.
Chance of death. Mediocre pay. Helpless and great. Count me in.
When Chapter 3 ends, you're pretty much going to know
Autopilot
almost everything
jumping.
about Gandohar's past. Chapter 4 is the last and the shortest chapter in the game. You have to go back to Gandohar's castle where you started the game and hopefully stop him once and for all and save your sister Kira. But as you might
Warping to
expect, it's
Stargate.
not really that straightforward.
drive
There are some
active.
plot twists along the way. To sum up my spoiler-free thoughts about the story, I think it offers a really solid experience. Although some parts of the story felt a bit disappointing, like some one-dimensional characters, and you can easily find a couple of plot holes here and there. For example, the orcs you meet in the beginning are really disappointing because it all implied they were supposed to be important characters, but they come across as very one-dimensional characters who only had a purpose in the very beginning. It's a shame because all of them had the potential to be very memorable characters. Darkwa is probably the most disappointing character in the entire game when it comes to this.
Tell me, you ever stop talking?
But that doesn't mean the game has no memorable characters at all. Even though it's been very long since I last completed the main story campaign, I had no problems remembering what happened in this chapter. Chapter 1 and 2
Approaching
also
Stargate.
have some pretty good characters. My biggest gripe with the main story is definitely the ending, and there is no way I can talk about it without spoiling the entire game. To put it simply, in the end, the story just feels really rushed. So this would be a good time to start talking about the spoilers. I'll have a separate timestamp so you can easily skip this if you plan to play the game for the first time. You still there? Good. Well, it turns out that Gandohar is not so bad after all, because when you finally get to meet him again, he actually helps you. Why? Well, apparently he was controlled by Aziral, the demon that possessed her sister Kira. Before you managed to escape, he was using her life force to sustain Kira as Aziral's vessel. He needs to keep Kira alive at all costs. The main goal of this demon was to consume the entire world, so he can rebuild it in his image.
The fire god is hungry.
Autopilot jumping.
Hates the diversity of our world.
Really? So Aziral would instantly get cancelled on social media, I guess. No, but seriously, he wants to destroy all humans and orcs and pretty much everything else except one specific species,
Warping to
the
Stargate.
dragons.
Warp
Throughout the
drive
whole game,
active.
you're led to believe that dragons have been extinct, but that's only partially true. Here comes the biggest plot twist, so hold on to your nutsack. The prophet Kasara was behind all of this because she herself is a dragon and she wanted to finally free Aziral. Since Gandohar was a big obstacle, she came up with a plan to separate you from your sister, so Gandohar would have to use his own life force to keep Kira alive, which would eventually make him a lot weaker. Kira has to die in order to Aziral to be released, by the way, so keep that in mind. Let me just put it this way. If you don't try to think about what happens here, the plot twist is pretty cool and unexpected. However, if you even try to use 1% of your brain cells, you're going to find a ton of plot holes and nothing makes sense here. I mean, sure, shock value is definitely strong when you learn about the true nature of Kasara. Kira tells you that Aziral was controlling Gandohar from the very beginning. If that was actually
Approaching
true,
Stargate.
Aziral could easily kill Gandohar or force him to kill himself at the very least, right? I mean, if Gandohar was the only thing which is stopping him, it would be a logical thing to do. Or how about forcing Gandohar to kill Kira so he can release himself? Hello?
It's a funny story to say the least.
But let's assume that Gandohar was not completely controlled by Aziral, even though Kira said the opposite. Remember how I said in the beginning that you were imprisoned here for 5 years? Well, that was a pretty big spoiler discussion, even though I tried to keep it as short as possible. I mean, yeah, the ending doesn't make a lot of sense to me, and maybe I missed something, I don't know. However, this didn't ruin my experience with the game, I had a lot of fun. Which finally brings us to the gameplay.
Autopilot jumping.
Like I said before, the game has an extensive tutorial section where you get to learn some important things about the gameplay, especially the combats. First of all, let's talk about the controls. This is hands down the biggest issue that most people
Warping to
might have with the gameplay. Even though the
Warp drive
controls are pretty
active.
responsive in general, controlling your character feels extremely floaty. The game just fails to create a proper sense of weight behind the actions your character executes. so the combat might be awful because of this, right? Well, kinda, but not really. The introduction to melee combat in the dungeon feels pretty bad, for the reasons I mentioned above, but the melee combat is far from being broken or unusable. It works really well when you try to learn how the mechanics work. Combined with a good progression system and very good balancing, believe it or not, it can turn out to be really enjoyable for the most part. I also decided to play the game on the hard difficulty, and I built the whole game like this, so my experience is completely based around this difficulty. My character was basically a battle mage. I used a couple of different spells and the majority of melee abilities as well. The game also has equally useful range skills if you decide to go with a bow. What came as a big surprise to me is the assassin gameplay and skills, which is definitely a very viable playstyle. There's sneaking, backstabbing, and a ton of useful traps you can use. However, all of that pales in comparison with the extensive magic system which the game offers, but I'm not done talking about the melee gameplay yet. It takes some time until the melee combat becomes comprehensible. Blocking is paramount in this game, and it's the first thing you should keep in mind if you decide to use melee skills. I used two-handed weapons for the most part, so I had to invest some points to make blocking more effective in order to take less damage. I believe shields are way more effective even from the start, but don't quote me on that because I didn't use them at all. Anyway, you have 12 different melee abilities that you can unlock, and some of them are restricted to certain weapon types. For example, you can use a very useful AoE spinning attack with a two-handed sword, which damages all enemies around you. Or if you decide to go with a two-handed axe or polearms, you can attempt to stun the enemy with a different ability. My favorite ability with the two-handed sword was the execute move that you can use when the enemy is knocked down. It's basically an instant kill every time, but it only works on smaller enemies. Speaking about the knockdown, there is a kick ability which can help you with that, and it's usable when you're blocking, which is extremely useful. However, the chance for success is based on percentage that you can increase when you dump more points into this ability. Your regular attack can turn into a special attack which can knock down the enemy or cause heavy damage. This can feel a bit awkward, and you can even put yourself in a disadvantage when some of these RNG abilities trigger. Regular attacks are quite fast, and when these special abilities trigger, the attack animation is a lot longer, which leaves you open for attacks. I'm not a huge fan of RNG abilities in games with action combat systems. I don't mind the kick ability, which has the chance to fail, but when I press the basic attack button, I like to have consistency, so I know what to expect. There is only a certain amount of randomness which proper action combat systems can afford to have. Otherwise, the combat can feel really, well, random. You can make an argument that RNG is supposed to mimic the dice roll, which is one of the features that have deep roots in the RPG genre. This works fine for turn-based RPGs, but it doesn't blend so well with action combat systems. The most common RNG mechanic in RPGs with action combat systems would probably be the critical chance. There are probably a couple of more RNG features that can work well, but it's kind of hard to pull off anything else which is based around RNG. I think the whole point of action combat systems in RPGs is finding a good balance between skills that require muscle memory and the progression system. Come to think of it, before you can actually invest points and use the skills in this game, you have to find the skill books. You can buy them off at various merchants, which is also pretty random, but you'll find these books just by exploring the world. It's not a huge problem because you're probably going to find the majority of skills you want to use, but still, I'm not a huge fan of this. I believe I had the same criticism in my Assassin's Creed Valhalla review. Learning new abilities just felt extremely random in that game. But anyway, I was pleasantly surprised with the AI in combat. You're going to fight multiple enemies almost all the time, and they will usually try to surprise you, which can actually make the fight a lot harder. Ranged enemies will try to keep out of the melee range, and NPCs even start running if their health is low. You have to face the enemy in order to block, so you can take some heavy damage from the sides and the back. The only thing which makes this more frustrating than it should be is the targeting system. The game has a soft lock-on system which is not really responsive. Switching targets in melee range can be really clumsy, and I died a lot because of this. The gameplay is quite fast, so you don't have a ton of time to react, which would be fine if the targeting was done better. The game doesn't play around on the hard difficulty. You can die in just a couple of hits, especially if you don't invest some points into health. With each level you gain, you get some stat points to invest. No matter what kind of a playstyle you're going for, if you don't increase your health pool, you're going to have a tough time in combat, especially on the hard difficulty. There is another extremely useful combat mechanic if you decide to play with melee weapons. The parry is a very powerful move and it doesn't require an extremely precise timing from the player. As long as you hold the block button when you get hit, you have a huge window for pressing the attack button, which will make the hero perform a couple of hits in a row. This attack has a huge AoE effect and you will hit everything around you for some heavy damage. It's really good and even a little bit OP sometimes. But like I said, the game can easily kick your ass if you let your guard down. It was very common for me to enter the fight and kill a bunch of NPCs with few parries and other abilities, but I also got killed a bunch of times by the same enemies in some situations. I mentioned that the game is surprisingly well balanced before and for a good reason. If you wanna maximize the damage you deal, you just have to pay attention to enemies' resistances. You can see these icons for all enemies, with some weird exceptions, and they pretty much show what type of damage you should not use. For example, you have two different types of melee damage, blunt and slash I guess. I don't know the official names because I don't believe it's ever mentioned. If the enemy is resistant to blunt damage, all of your blunt weapons will have a very noticeable penalty on the damage output. It's always a good idea to switch the weapon in those situations because even a much weaker weapon with a different damage type will do more damage. I think this is another example of how good is the balancing in this game. To make things clear, this is not only related to melee weapons. You'll have to pay attention to resistances in general, especially as a mage, because magic has more than a couple of different damage types. What makes switching your weapons and abilities very easy in this game is 3 different profiles that you can switch on the fly with the press of a button. My first profile was for heavy armor with slashing damage, the second was for all of my spells and mage equipment, and the third was reserved for blunt melee damage. You will have a lot better experience in combat if you set up your profiles for different damage types and use them accordingly. Two Worlds 2 also managed to find a great balance between crafting and buying new weapons. It's pretty easy to increase the strength of the weapon and the materials can be acquired by scrapping the items you don't need. Every now and then you'll be able to find stronger weapons at merchants and replace even your fully upgraded weapon. However, it takes a while for that to happen, so it doesn't feel pointless to upgrade your weapon. And you get to scrap the weapon you were using so you can increase the strength of your new weapon, and it's a pretty good gameplay loop. Weapons and armors have gem slots as well, and you can considerably increase the power of an item with high-level gems. To make the customization even more enjoyable, the game allows you to buy different dice, which you can apply on armor pieces. Now let's talk a little bit about the magic system.
You ever stop talking?
I mentioned this magic system in more than a couple of my videos, and for a good reason. It allows you to be very creative with your spells, and it's definitely the best way to experience the gameplay. First of all, you need the amulet and a bunch of magic cards to make a spell. The effect and carrier card is like the base for the spell you want to make, and then you start adding different modifiers. You can make some regular basic spells like fire projectiles, traps, summoning different monsters, healing, etc, etc. But you can also make some crazy combinations when you invest some more points into magic related skills. I will now play a couple of short clips from my older videos about this magic system, so you can see how crazy it can get.
Approaching Stargate.
Wow. The magic system. I want to experience it. I think it's probably better than Skyrim. And I have this game sitting there, I think. I just want to go take a look. There we go. Sorry. Get back to what I was doing here. Yeah.
Autopilot jumping. Warping to Stargate. Warp drive active. Approaching Stargate.
Uh-oh. Oh, okay. Oops.
Autopilot jumping. Warping to Stargate. Warp drive active.
Wow.
Looks fun, right? The game really encourages you to experiment with modifiers as long as you have all the cards. My character wasn't that crazy with the spells because I focused on the melee skills as well. If my memory serves me well, the first time I played this game back in 2010, my character had a mix of melee and ranged skills, and I had a lot of fun with the bow. The tutorial does a great job at showcasing a really fun ranged skill that you can use, firing a couple of arrows at once at multiple enemies. And while this is really cool, it's one of those skills that totally lack the sense of impact. I haven't played with other ranged skills on this playthrough, so I can't really talk about that. But you can totally choose to play as a pure ranged character and have enough skills and gadgets. Like I said before, I was pleasantly surprised with all the assassin skills in this game. On the other side, the game can be a bit too convenient when it comes to enemy placement. As you explore the world, you find a lot of enemies with their back turned, even when it doesn't make a lot of sense. This was obviously a way to incentivize the assassin playstyle because you can perform instant stealth kills from the back. When it comes to boss fights, the game is kinda disappointing, especially the end boss. You won't find a ton of boss fights in the game anyway, but even when you do, they don't require much strategy or skill. In fact, you'll have a much tougher time with a couple of stronger regular enemies than actual bosses. Although the game was obviously not trying to focus on the boss fights, so it's not a huge deal if you ask me. Two Worlds 2 has plenty of different enemy types, although I think most of them feel pretty similar in combat. I briefly mentioned exploration, so let's talk a little bit about this topic. Two Worlds 2 has a couple of very different zones that you can explore as you progress through the main story. First you get the desert, which is the biggest zone in the game. You can get a horse very early in the game and explore this zone with a mount. There are also some horse races in which you can participate. I didn't bother with using a horse at all, except for one race in the beginning. Not because the riding mechanics are bad, they're actually pretty decent. The only thing which is a bit annoying is the gallop button that you need to tap and not hold. Other than that, the handling of the horse is pretty damn good. For example, it's way better than Skyrim's horse mechanics, and that game came out 1 year after Two Worlds 2. Anyway, the zone in the second chapter is heavily influenced by Asian culture, and it's a great switch of atmosphere. The wood in this area feels very different, with lush vegetation and a couple of interesting places to explore. It's a lot smaller zone compared to the desert though. The city of this place is my favorite populated location in the entire game. The third chapter is set in a swamp, which is a lot bigger place, and once again the atmosphere in this place is quite different. You'll fight a lot of zombies here, and you won't be able to leave until you complete the main quest. Chapter 4 is set in a place called the Swallows, which is like a wasteland. This place used to be the original university from Chapter 2 until Gandalf's failed experiment destroyed it. Once again, this place has a very different vibe compared to everything else. It's a lot darker and you're going to fight very strong creatures around here. Exploring everything that these zones have to offer can be quite rewarding as well, especially if you choose to invest some points into lockpicking. The lockpicking minigame is quite interesting if you ask me. You can find a ton of chests left and right, and locks have different level of skills required. The loot seems to be almost completely randomized in the game, but there are definitely loot tables which keep the loot close to your level. It's not exactly like Skyrim's level lists, but it's something similar to that. Weapons and armor will require you to have certain amount of skill points invested within a certain category. There are heavy and light armor, and you can't mix the armor pieces from these two categories. For example, some capes can only be equipped with heavy or light armor, and some armor doesn't allow you to equip a bow. It's a bit weird, but I don't mind this at all, because switching between different weapon sets is very seamless, like we mentioned before. Oh yeah, the game also has capes with physic effects. The physic effect can also be seen within a couple of different spells, like the one I showed before. When you explore the map, you can find some very tough enemies, which are obviously a lot higher level than you, and the only choice you have is to come back later when you're stronger. If you watch my videos about RPGs, you know I prefer fixed level enemies and zones instead of level scaling, so this is right up my alley. For example, I found this cave with very strong skeletons near the beginning of the game, and I got completely owned. Every time you get a bit stronger, it's very noticeable in fights, and the whole progression system is done really well. I hit a brick wall a couple of times in terms of the damage I'm being able to inflict on enemies. When that happens, I start visiting every merchant in major cities in order to find a stronger weapon, or at least I buy some common weapons that I can scrap and increase the strength of my current weapon. Some bosses you'll fight will drop a very good weapon that you can use for a long time, especially if you upgrade them. There are some small attention to detail when it comes to the gameplay, which are worth mentioning. For example, when you run uphill, your movement speed is noticeably lower, no matter which armor type you're using. You can find items which will increase your movement speed on foot, even though you can get a horse. I would say that RPG mechanics in this game are pretty damn good overall. The user interface in the game is amazing for a couple of reasons. First of all, it works great with mouse and keyboard, and it's equally good with a controller. The interface is clean and, more importantly, very functional. It's very easy to see all the important info about all items and their properties, especially when it comes to weapons and armor. Skills and abilities have a very nice design, which is easy to understand. The only problem I had with the UI is the high transparency. It can be hard to see properly sometimes because of the high transparency with the background, so you have to move the camera. Up to this point, you should probably have a good idea how the game looks. Two Worlds 2 came out in 2010, and it was never an amazing looking game, but it was good enough. The desert area is definitely fun to explore, but visually it's really bland and boring. It was probably not the best idea to start the game in this zone. Making a good looking desert area can be quite challenging, but to be honest, there are plenty of other games that did it a lot better than Two Worlds 2. When it comes to other areas, I already mentioned how different they all feel, and the visual design is obviously a huge reason for that. I think this is one of those games that managed to find a good balance between realistic and stylized art style. There is a full day and night cycle that certainly changes the mood of the game a bit. Although I prefer when nights are a bit darker than this, it's pretty damn bright. The dungeons have a good amount of darkness though. When it comes to textures, I fail to notice any low-res assets in the open world, or just in general really. I was playing the game on 4K resolution on high details, and I had almost locked 60 FPS all the time. You can see my PC specs on the screen. It's a pretty average PC for this day and age. Although I had to turn off anti-aliasing because I had huge FPS drops when I moved for some reason. To be honest, I didn't notice a major difference in how the game looks, but I'm very easy to please when it comes to visuals in general. Speaking about turning things off, the blur makes the game look a lot worse in my opinion. It's really overdone and annoying, especially when you move. It's turned on by default, but I suggest turning it off. The thing is, you can't exactly get rid of it completely unless you take some extra steps outside of the game, but I was satisfied by just using the in-game settings. If you watch my recent reviews, you know I like to talk about character models in these older RPGs. Most of the games I recently covered had similar issues when it comes to character models. It was not uncommon to see identical faces on more than a couple of important characters, especially in AA RPGs. The quality of character models in this game is not outstanding by any means, but what came as a big surprise to me is the sheer variety of faces in the game, which is arguably a lot more important than graphical fidelity. The vast majority of characters you're going to meet have unique faces. This was like a breath of fresh air after I almost had a nervous breakdown from meeting the same guy in Arcania over and over again. Armor and weapons in Two Worlds 2 look quite decent. For example, this Archmage Fire Staff looks amazing. Although I was a bit disappointed with two-handed weapons, but this is really subjective. Most of these weapons have a very basic visual design, which is not bad by any means. I just think the game lacks some crazy looking fantasy style weapons. I don't mean over the top JRPG stuff, but something a bit crazier than this, if you know what I mean. The majority of enemies you're going to fight also have a great visual design. Even though I said that boss fights were disappointing, the way they look is great. The lighting in this game is serviceable, but not amazing by any means. And I don't remember seeing different weather effects, which is definitely disappointing. But yeah, to sum up the visuals, the game holds up okay for this day and age. I think the music in the game is actually amazing and has some very memorable tracks. I will play a couple of short samples from my favorite tracks in the game. The great music definitely makes the exploration way better in general. However, the sound effects could have been a lot better. I don't think they are bad, but they sound really basic and boring. The combat sound effects are another reason why everything feels weightless and devoid of any impact. The sound of clashing weapons in combat is a bit random, especially when you or the NPC is blocking. It can sound like there is a lot more happening on the screen than it actually is. Other sound effects in combat are mediocre at best. Some magic sound effects are quite decent actually. I briefly touched upon the voice acting in the beginning of the video, and not for a good reason. First of all, the general quality of voice acting is quite decent.
When you find yourself surrounded, rely on an area attack spell, like Fire Blast.
You'll definitely find some NPCs who sound like they're just reading the script in a very robotic way. But the majority of important NPCs have very decent voice actors.
Falanon the Butcher has never exactly rolled off the tongue.
However, the volume of the voices is really inconsistent. The voice actor of the main character always sounds like he's trying very hard not to wake up his wife or something. Pretty much every NPC in the game is way louder than him.
Will we be able to help her?
That remains to be uncertain.
The problem with sound volume begins right after you talk with the prophet. If you like to play with headphones, I think you're going to jump off your seat when you first initiate a dialogue with her. And she's not even the loudest NPC you're going to meet. This is probably the most unpolished feature in the game, and it can be really annoying. I was increasing and decreasing the volume of my headphones almost constantly when I engage in a dialogue or a cutscene. Oh, and by the way, some cutscenes are unskippable, which is always a pain in the ass. But yeah, music very good, voice acting decent with a lot of volume problems, sound effects mediocre at best. So we finally get to talk about the infamous DLCs. Oh boy. Let me just put it this way, if you play the base game and you really like it, you can maybe consider buying. Whatever you do, don't buy this piece of shit, please. Even though I highly recommend playing the base game of Two Worlds 2, I don't really think you should give any of your money to this horrible company. But if you don't care about that and you're really interested in playing the game after this review, you might as well use my GOG link and support the channel. There is supposed to be a huge discount on GOG for the next couple of days because of the Halloween sale. Whatever you do, just don't bother with the DLCs, unless you're a masochist or something. Like I said, maybe just the first DLC is worth playing if you really like the base game. Two Worlds 2 was always considered to be a mediocre RPG by the majority of people who played it, and I guess that's the most accurate description of the game. Unfortunately, I don't believe we're ever going to see a third game in this series, but even if we do, God help us all. The best case scenario would be if someone buys this IP from Topper Interactive, THQ Nordic perhaps. I mean, those guys are collecting IPs left and right. But anyway, thanks a lot for watching this review.
You ever stop talking?
If you like these kinds of videos, make sure to check out my previous reviews about RPGs.
There's a bee. There's a wolf man. Oh, cool. There's like an earth elemental. There's a wolf. Wow. that's the video's over, huh? Yep. So, actually, conjuration. Yeah, but it still sucks. It's not what I'm looking for. Oh yeah, Skyrim's running. I don't think so.
Warp drive active.
My UI's all screwed up. I'll have to reload and jump in a station.
Warp drive active.
That sucked. I got it running. That's the main thing. At least my other games didn't die. This came to the wrong side. What's that?
Docking request accepted. Warp drive active.
And here I am, I don't have a... It's a named mob and I don't have a way to kill him. That's sad. Might be good money too. It's a shame. But yeah. is this huge out the screen? Go. Oh my god. That is not 1920 by 1080, you idiot. Oh my god. Yep, close the program. Yep. Let's do it. Oh my god. That was it. Stop it. Oh my god, getting it to run in the right resolution would be so annoying. Oh my god. These old fucking games. I don't really want to play that old game anyway. I was just firing it up to see what it did. No, this is not what I wanted to do. Oh, wait, yes it is. Damn it, you never stay on live. It drives me crazy. Whatever. Maybe I will fire up Skyrim to see how it'll play. I got all the mods set up the other day. I think. Yeah, just play. There, that's a bit better. No, I wanna start a new one. Yes. So Sky UI won't work, okay. There, that seems to work. But I still need you to stop for a second. That works, though. That's good to see that it works. Decorations have changed. Wow. Oh, it appears that it's loading the stuff that I wanted. That's cool. Yeah, let it run that process. Terribly sorry, guys. I gotta go pee. I'll be right back. Hopefully I don't get respawned. I might. 786.92 gigabytes used. I don't really understand that, but.
Warp drive active. Docking request accepted.
I'm gonna start from the bottom now because there's like 93 of these and it's really annoying. Trying to find this one particular mod because it's the only one with a problem. Go from the bottom. I think this has got to go. There, that's it, I think. I think that's it. Yeah, that's the one I've been hunting for. Okay, run it. And then let's see if the new game has a conflict. What else gives you problems? Gotta go shopping here in an hour, so my shift is gonna end. Real life calls. Hey, everything worked. Alright, well, let's go. Oh, I don't know. Yeah.
approach, my child, and choose where your new life shall begin. A life of crime is still a life. Be wary, thief.
Start keeping a knife in my pocket. I'm tired of getting this on. Need something. Tidings.
Looks like my mods are loaded. That's good.
Yes.
Hey, someone had to take it, right? Need something? Huh?
Need something?
Need something? What are you doing? Now ain't this a surprise? What are you doing? Oh. Here.
Never should have come here. You can't hide from me.
Start running so I can stab you in the back.
Well, I killed her with my fist pretty easy.
She said she'd wait.
I'm on your side. You picked a bad time to get lost, friend. You can't hide from me. Merciful.
Yep. Seems good. Frame rate's better once I left that weird place.
Warp drive active.
Looks like we got ourselves a hero. Don't hide from me.
Well, it's running, and that's all I can really ask. I'm equalizing everything. Oh, my keybinds are good. Wow, it installed like all my mods perfectly, really fast. Wow, it's like, wow. Oops, I brought it with me. Oh well. So I live in Silent Moons, wow. Okay. Oh, okay.
Speak, elf. What do you want, little elf?
Good morning. What's that over there? Oh cool, the game keeps going? Yeah, it does.
Shit, is it Whiterun? I'm at Whiterun. It is Whiterun. Alright, well, that's good. I need to go to the Mages Guild, I guess. What is Sheath? No, that's right. So, auto run and one auto move should be mouse 5, and then power should be mouse 4. Oh yeah, that's good too. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to Skyrim.
You have committed crimes against Skyrim and her people. What say you in your defense?
I don't have
You're going
anything
to rot
stolen.
in the Dragon's Reach dungeon.
Oh shit. No, wait, what was this? This is a lot better than Daggerfall. But I have a certain thing I have in mind. I don't want to do anything, so I'm going to be a conjurer with companions. And I'm not even going to do the MSQ. I'm only going to do bright quests and stuff. And I'm only going to do procedurally generated stuff. I've never done this. I've never escaped from the Skyrim dungeon before. I've never been caught for stealing, believe it or not. I just quick load, quick play, or quick save, quick load. That goes to the guard barracks. There was some food in here, that's good. Oh god, so wait, I want to save before this because I gotta make this pick matter. There, I got it. There's all my shit. Wow, I picked up a lot of shit already. I gotta change my title now. Instead of Caves of Cut, I'm gonna load Skyrim SE. And I will save Caves of Cut and log it out. This was a good session, got a lot done. I'm level 14 now. Yes, yep, bye. The frame rate seems like it's like messing around a bit, and that I need to maybe re-examine something in the... It's running well, but it appears that I need to examine something about the frame rate, something about it. I'm not sure what. Try again. TAA, borderless advanced, shadow quality. We'll turn it down because I think the other games, right? Yeah, and the shadow distance. Yeah, I don't care about that. Decal, gob race, snow shader, lens flare, 64-bit render target, snow shader, precipitation, screen space, gob rays, decals. Let's do none. And the view distance is up. Yep, distance object detail. Could be medium, I think. And we'll leave it like that and see if it'll play. See if it'll do better now. Get a little bit better settings. Also, not just that, but I also need carry weight, right? So, like, we'll have that be all 9s, because I don't chuck with your fucking bullshit around, Nope, that was not it. That was not it. But this is... There we go. Can we get this up there? Yeah, fit it. Yes, continue and see how that runs. Like, New World is definitely eating a lot of the VRAM that Skyrim's trying to use, definitely. The save is corrupted? No, the save is not corrupted. It can load. You crashed that time, but I bet you run again. If not, I'll start a new game. It's not like I'm fucking far. The save game is corrupt and cannot be loaded. What is that? Like, how does that make sense? Okay. Save game is corrupt. That seems weird. Okay, well, perhaps I'll start a new save then. Alright. And we'll see how it's running. Did you actually change these things? Yes, you did. Okay. And, yeah. Play. Got a lot of stuff getting right up there. Got a lot of stuff to sell. So out of curiosity, I want the prisoner save. Yeah, no. Skycat Khajiit Labyrinthian Chasm. Wait, I'm level 37? 9, 21, 23, but this one isn't, like, I don't know. Will you be able to load this? I don't think you can.